Welcome back to Later HP. Today we have another Facebook Marketplace find, and this one took a pretty hard hit in the front, so let's take a closer look. So lately I've been trying to stay away from wrecked cars as they're not worth the time, but this was just a good deal that I couldn't pass up, and I also have parts in hand. If you remember, a few months ago I picked up this Helene flooded car and it was completely flooded to the roof, but I did get it to run and drive. So it's a complete car, but unfortunately it doesn't have a title, so I'm not able to register it or drive it on the streets. So this is now becoming a parts car, and as you can see, I have a complete front end with a good engine, transmission. This is a 5-speed manual. I've actually already started taking some of the parts out for other vehicles, and a lot of the electronics are no good in this car anyways. As you can see, there's mud behind the dash and stuff like that. So, but it still has a pretty good clean interior. It is a titanium, so there's a lot of good parts. The only downside about this car is the other car's blue and this one's black, so unfortunately looks like I'll have to get the hood and the bumper painted. So this car is not a run and drive at the moment. Obviously took a pretty hard hit in the front, but taking a closer look, once I got the hood open, I can see that the actual bumper reinforcement and all the frame rails are actually okay. It was a higher hit, so it looks like he hit a pickup truck or something like that. So I did take out the upper radiator support, and the radiator and condenser is basically blown. And just taking a look around, I can kind of tell that the engine's actually sitting sideways. So from the hit, it broke the motor mount and pushed the engine back. On top of that, it actually broke the intake manifold, which that is why it doesn't start, because of all this air leak. But that being said, we're gonna get into the front end, gonna start taking it apart, gonna strip it down completely. Hood, bumper cover, headlights, radiator. And because of the front end collision, it did blow the steering bag, the passenger bag, and the seat belts, and also the passenger curtain airbag, which I have all these parts laying around. That's not an issue. This is a 2012 with only about 115,000 miles or so. One owner car, came with 2 keys. It's an awesome deal. One thing I do hate about these cars is that when the passenger airbag blows, you gotta replace the whole dash. It's not a cap. You gotta remove the whole dash, basically half of the interior apart, just to change that airbag out, which is not a big deal. I just hate doing it. And again, the car does power on, and I'm not gonna try to crank it because of the intake being broken, but it does have 118,000 miles on it. Not bad at all. So let's get in the front end and see how much more damage is hidden. And unfortunately, when the passenger airbag blows, it actually breaks the windshield also, which is going to be another expense. So first thing I like to do is remove the hood just to get more light under here. I am doing this outside, and I only have like 2 hours before it starts pouring rain again. Worst case, I can put it in the garage, but I have a mess in here I got to clean up. But now that I got the hood out of the way, there's a piece of intake manifold. I can go ahead and continue removing the lights, the bumper. I didn't remove the hood hinges just yet. I think they're okay, but I won't know until I actually get the new hood on. But to remove those, I'll have to pull the fenders off, and I'm going to try to avoid that, as the fenders are not damaged. This one has a little kink in it, but that can be pulled out, no problem. If I have to remove the fenders, I will, but I'm going to try to avoid. But let's get this support out of the way and see if we can get this thing to run. Normally when taking cars apart, I recommend labeling all the bolts and screws where they go. This is a piece of wire here that's just been cut. We'll figure that out. But in this case, I've done so many of these that I just know where every single bolt, screw, and clip goes. So I'm just gonna put them all in one box and then use them as I put this car back together. It's got oil. And you can see how far the engine moved back. Completely popped out of the motor mount. And I'm seeing more damage than I thought. Well, maybe not. The sensor on the fuel rail is broken, but I think the fuel rail is fine. Connector's broken on the sensor. Once I get all these, the radiator and the condenser out of the way, I'll be able to see more damage and get the intake out, put the engine back in place. I do have a new motor mount somewhere. Dang, I can't believe the condenser survived. It's still pressurized. And good thing I checked, because once you pull the bolts off the AC lines, it would just blow up in my face. So I always check, even though it looks like there could be a hole here somewhere. And I mean, it's pretty bent up. And the radiator does have a hole in it, but the condenser somehow survived. I am going to replace it because, I mean, that's just ugly. But it's still full, so I'll have to drain it. Alright, so there's the intake manifold, or what's left of it. The other part is still in the engine. I am pretty pleased with this damage here, because I don't see any actual engine damage. I'm going to go ahead and lift up the engine, remove the broken motor mount, which is completely shot. The mount's supposed to be in here. It's way over there. And the only thing I see as far as wiring damage is the harness that goes to the injectors, which is no big deal. I have one of those. There's some damage here to the headlight connector, not the connector itself, but the wiring. So all this can be soldered. There's plenty of room. If not, I'll just change the whole connector and go from there. But I'm gonna go ahead and set the engine where it needs to be, and then swap over the intake. So the way I change the motor mounts is actually I take a piece of wood, take a jack, and then just lift it up right up against the oil pan. And then you can, once you have it lifted, you can just slide it back into place. Ouch. Alright, so the engine is now back where it needs to be. I've got the motor mount tightened and everything. It did bend the AC lines a little bit, but it's not kinked or leaking obviously anywhere, because I did have to drain it. So what I can do is just bend them back in place. It's not hitting the belts or anything like that. So I'm gonna remove the rest of this intake. Looks like this hose is actually broken. It's a vacuum line, and yeah, so here in the next few minutes, hopefully we'll get this thing running. One thing that's interesting about this Focus is this thing was built in June 2011, so it's like the very first production Ford Focus with this new body style. And I noticed it doesn't have any shutters at all, and there's no connector or anything, so which is cool, because I thought I was gonna have to buy a shutter or remove it from the other parts car, which I know it has the whole front clip, but the less I remove on that parts car, the better. So it's interesting. Never seen that before, and I work on a lot of these, as you guys know. Never seen one without a shutter. And if you don't know what a shutter is, it's basically like blinds in front of your radiator and condenser that close on a cold start. And I'm assuming that's just to close to get the engine temps up to spec quicker. Could be wrong. So I just wanted to make sure that there's no pieces of intake plastic near the valves, and I did pull out a few bigger pieces on these two. It won't really damage anything because it's just plastic, but you really don't want anything in there. I mean, eventually if it does fall in, it'll just get thrown out through the exhaust and melt or something like that. So it probably wouldn't affect the engine, but it better be safe. I was looking for a injector harness, just laying around, and I can't find one, but then I looked closer and actually injector number 4 broke off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the rail with the sensor and injectors off of donor engine and just replace it, and that way I will be good. I can just plug this into the engine harness and I'll be good. There's no damage on this connector, so we're in good shape. Oops. So I have a thermostat housing here with a thermostat. It is used, but it's in good shape. Missing the O-ring, but I'll be able to reuse the O-ring on the original one. And I got a fuel rail with injectors and the harness that will bolt right up. So 3 bolts on the thermostat housing. Take those out, bolt the new one in with the hose already, and then put the rail in, intake back on, and we should fire this thing up. Dang, it's starting to rain. Come on. Need like 10 more minutes. Looks like the rain had other plans, but I got the car enough in the garage to where it's going to keep me dry. I'm going to continue on this. I got the rail, the fuel rail in. I got it tightened. The fuel line is tight. I can throw the intake in once I connect this this hose, and once I have the intake in, I'm gonna go ahead and try to fire it, run it for a few seconds, make sure it runs, and then put the new radiator in, condenser, and do everything else. So there's not much left to get it going, and then the other car's outside and it's raining, so I can't get the parts off of it at the moment. As soon as I can, I will. But that's just the bumper and the hood, looks like. This right here will get straightened out with just a hammer. It's very thin material there, not a big deal. Everything is looking good. Alright, everything's connected as far as getting it started. Plugging in the battery, gonna help with the booster box because I know the battery was low. I forgot to charge it, so we should be all good. Let's try to crank it. Alright, got the key in hand. Gonna cycle the ignition a few times, build that fuel pressure, and let's go ahead and start it. I forgot to plug in the mass airflow. I actually forgot to put in the airbox altogether, so now that I have that plugged in, it should start and idle better. It did start, but then I cut it off. I wanted to make sure there's no fuel leaks, which is everything is looking good. So I'm gonna start it running for about 10 seconds or so without coolant, and then go from there. All right, let's try again. Alright, so I got a brand new radiator here, a slightly used AC condenser, and a slightly used fan. All of it's in good shape with low miles. It's ready for installation. Let's get it. Fire this thing up. Let it warm up. Well, the good news is she runs and drives, and you know, that's a relief because it's always a risk buying something like this. Not really a risk because if the engine was bad, I had another one to put in, but I am happy I don't have to do any of that. There is a small coolant leak on one of the hoses there. I didn't notice it, but I guess it's got a slight cut from the wreck, so I'll have to replace that. But other than that, just needs the upper support, and then I'm gonna take the hood and the bumper to paint. I've decided I'm not gonna take the whole car, just gonna take the hood, the bumper, and the trunk lid because it's peeling back here, so I'll just get those sprayed. No reason to take the whole car. Alright, so it's been a couple of days since I dropped the parts off for paint, the hood, the bumper, and the trunk lid. Trunk lid was just peeling and I wanted to get it repainted to make this car look 100%. But today I'm going to focus on the airbag system, the SRS system. We got a driver blown bag, we got a passenger blown bag, which sucks. In this car you have to change the whole dash, which I have here thanks to MK Tech. He hooked me up with the dash from his flooded Focus. I did have a dash, but that one had a push to start, and this car does not have push to start, so this is going to be the dash I'm going to put in there. I've already cleaned it up and washed it, but then it started raining. It's 2024, we can't predict the weather. It's sad. It's actually 2025. I'm a little behind. But anyways, back to the airbags. That current airbag is also blown, and both seat belts are blown. So this many bags and seat belts being blown, that means that the module, the SRS module, the airbag module, is actually in the under the center console, and it does possibly have a crash code, which means it needs to be sent off and reset. Luckily for me, I have tons of Focus parts, and I do have a module here. I have a few of them, and as long as the part number is the same, I should be good just to plug this in. But first, I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the battery, change all the bags out and the seat belts, and then try this module out. If this one doesn't work, I have more to try. Remember, it's always best to disconnect the battery anytime you're working with the airbag system or any electronic system on the vehicle. Just disconnect it. Better be safe than sorry. Alright, so the SRS module, the airbag module, is located underneath the shifter on these, so you don't have to remove the center console. I'm doing it because it's going to be easier for me to pull the dash out, but you can actually remove the side panels and get in there and get to the module. The module that I do have is exactly the same part number as the original one, so that's awesome. I don't have to waste time and send it off and get it reset. That's the good news. Also, better news, when you remove the interior on cars, you have like this lunch money that you collect, and actually some snacks, which is nice. Is it hard to remove the dash on a 2012 through 2018 Ford Focus? No, it's not. It's just annoying, and I hate to do it because of all these bolts and screws that you gotta find, and some of them are hidden, but I've done a bunch of these, so I already know what it is. It took me about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get this thing out. Now putting it back in is just going to be routing the wiring connectors and all that in the proper place and not getting them pinched in between the dash frame, and make sure everything's plugged in. Make sure there's no codes, everything works as it should. Also, I'm pretty sure this dash was removed in the past by the dealership or maybe a shop, possibly to get into the heater core or maybe replace some of the actuators here because they're basically impossible to get to with the dash in. So Why I'm saying that is because there's a few things that are not screwed into the dash. Like this thing was just laying on top of the BCM, which is okay. I mean, everything was working. There was no codes besides the airbag codes. So before I put the new dash in, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this current airbag and the seat belts. Alright, so I went ahead and cut the front windshield out because I was able to remove it from the parts car in one piece with no cracks, which is a first for me. Usually it cracks when I try to remove it, but this time I took my time with the little wire that I bought off Amazon, special cutting wire for removing windshields. And if you just take your time, you're able to do it. But I'm not sure if I saved anything there because I spent a lot of time on it. But anyways, it looks like a mess in here now, but I was able to put the current airbag on the passenger side. I have not removed the seat belts yet. I'd like to put the dash in, assemble that, and then put the new used windshield in, glue that in with the special stuff that I just picked up. It's pretty expensive actually. It's like 35 bucks for one of these. A little bit cheaper online, but I didn't want to wait, so I picked it up today. But the dash is right here. Cleaned it up like 3 times already. It keeps raining, but the dash is ready to go with the nice sealed airbag. So let's get this thing in. So the dash and interior is coming together pretty nice. That windshield came out good. Probably will never do that again. But ran into an issue with the seat belts. This being a 2012 Ford Focus, the seat belts are a little bit different from a 13 and a 14. I think they changed it in 13 and a half. The ones that don't have the knee airbag, which is this one doesn't have the knee airbag, so it doesn't have the same seat belts. So I thought I had both seat belts, but they're actually from a 14 and up or 13 and a half and up. So I'll have to pick some up, no big deal. There's a local junkyard, Speedy's, in Candler, North Carolina, that has them, so I'll pick some up tomorrow. But I am glad that these connectors didn't melt with the airbag being blown. A lot of times these both connectors are melted, and sometimes you can take them apart, take the terminals out, and just put new connectors. A lot of times you can't, so you have to cut and solder, which very happy that it didn't melt. It did melt the connectors on the passenger side airbag, but when I got the dash, I was able to get the connectors with the airbag and the dash. So all that's being fixed. I'm not going to put the center console in just yet because I want to confirm that the SRS module is actually good. And that'll be once I put the seat belts in. Yeah, now I'm going to pop this driver airbag in and move on. Always make sure you put the connectors in all the way on the airbags, because a lot of times if it's a bad connection, you won't be able to clear the code and it'll still have the airbag light on. And there it is. Need more light in here. Got some seat belts.